I'd like to show you something about debugging inside of Model Builder that can sometimes be useful. And that is the fact that you can run an individual step or process by itself and see the results. So here I'm debugging a workflow that calculates the net runoff from a location in a vector data set, and so this vector data layer. So here I have basically the soil absorption data layer. It's the maximum amount of ground absorption you get when you have rainfall, and here's net rainfall. And so I union those and do the multi-part to single part. I add a field to calculate the amount of runoff in there, and now what I want to do is basically calculate the amount by watershed. So I have to intersect these with the watershed. And so I've been debugging along because it gave me the wrong answer when I got to the end, and I'm trying to figure out where it's getting the wrong answer. And so what I'm doing is breaking connections. After this intersect, I would do a multi-part to single part. So here is the link I just reinstituted. I had this one broken, and I checked basically to get to this union here in my map. It shows where the overlay is between my layers and the recalculation. And so here I'm basically unioning everything. So I have my rainfall layer, and you can see the soils layer and the land cover layer there. And I was doing calculations here in the attribute table to calculate the various pieces. So I was basically calculating, making sure the rainfall was correct, and looking at calculating the interception, and that was correct, and I'm getting this gross runoff, and that's what I'm basically just calculating. And so now I want to basically intersect that or union that with the watersheds. And so I'm at the next step in the debugging because I was getting a wrong answer here, and I checked this gross runoff, and it sure seems to be calculated correctly when I check my hand calculations against the values for various polygons. I can check them here, and so the values look like they're across the right range, and when I go in them, it seems to be calculating correctly to this point. So I've basically step by step gone through the model, adding links. And so I just finished this calculation. I just created this link here to the intersect, and so now I'm going to run just this this tool for the model. So I left click and run, and it runs through, and it'll do all its running for the intersect. And then I'll look at the output. So here's this output feature class, and that's output this vsheds intersect. So I'll go over here to my target, the scratch database, and I'll have to refresh it. And then I'll pull up this vsheds intersect. So I'll pull that over to my map, and I'll inspect that. And so I can go through and check the results at each step to try and work back from an incorrect answer. In this case, I'll look at the vsheds intersect, and there's something wrong with that intersect. That's where my problem is coming. So in the intersect, I should have the entire area where they both overlap because the watersheds are bigger. And I don't see the watershed lines here. So I can debug then through my data layer and figure out like where my error is. So I have to then take a look at this step here. I can focus in then, and something's wrong with the way I'm specifying this intersect, or understanding how it works. Because what I'd like to do is have an intersect where I have the watersheds and the underlying area, this union that I just verified that worked correctly, but clipped out by the watersheds with the watershed IDs. And so my intersect isn't working the way I think. Anyway, the main point is I can attach and detach these. If this would have worked, I would have connected this line and done the multi-part to single part, and then checked at this output. If it would have worked along there, then I would have basically worked down this, detaching the next step until I found in the data where I went wrong.